So, I mean, there's nothing prohibiting people from talking about their religion, right? I mean, it's just a matter of whether they sort of impose it in particular public places or sort of forums and that sort of thing on others. Yeah. So I mean, in terms of worldviews and religions, here again, I think Asian religions can be somewhat instructive. So in the West, we tend to think of religion in very exclusive terms. And there could be various reasons for that. I mean, to have one creator deity who is revealing God's self at different places and different times is going to yield certain contradictions, right? And so perhaps some of the greatest infighting religiously is between the three monotheistic traditions, or even within those monotheistic traditions. So there's something that's sort of about monotheism to me that sort of engenders a kind of exclusivism that kind of develops. That's not the only reason, but it's sort of a contributing factor. In Asian religions, as I sort of noted, religiosity is understood in a very different way. And so it's not a problem from a Buddhist perspective for me to practice Buddhism and Christianity, right? At a time, there was a time for Christians where they would say, no, that you can't do that, right? That's violating our sort of fundamental principles. But in Asian religions, there's this sort of understanding. It relates to this worldview, what I call sort of a metaphysic of process, or an organic metaphysic, right? They begin, different from the West, they begin with this understanding that reality is a constant process. In Chinese religion, right, this is kind of waxing and waning of yin and yang. Everything is in process, nothing stays the same. In Buddhism, it's the fundamental emphasis on interdependence, impermanence, and change. And when you begin with that understanding of reality, then it means that it's important to understand your context, right? At certain times, this may be appropriate. At other times, it may be inappropriate. It means that, right, everything is constantly changing. At certain times, it may be completely okay to go to the Taoist temple and do something there. At other times, it may be appropriate to go to the Confucian temple and do something here. At other times, it may be appropriate to go to the Buddhist. Their sort of notion that things are in process, so you can't fix this is the only way to do something. They tend not to be that sort of way. So there is a kind of fluidity. Now, you might sort of say, yeah, but that's complete relativism. I don't think that's what they're arguing. It's not that any way is as good as any other. They're not arguing that. But what they are sort of saying is that you need to pay attention to context, to understand what is appropriate in that particular place and time. And you can make certain sort of claims that killing sentient beings is wrong, but generally there is sort of, and we in the West don't really have that sort of understanding of what is proper, right, So even in the Chinese context, what might be good at one place in time might be evil in another place in time. The notion of yin and yang within Chinese religion is not an ethical dualism. It's not that one is good and one is evil. It's the idea that it's constantly sort of changing, and that one has to understand one's place to understand what is appropriate, if that makes sense.